Questions of gender and sexuality are increasingly coming up in the world of sports. This week's Euro match between Germany and Hungary saw UEFA refuse a request to light up the stadium in rainbow colors after Hungary's recent law banning references to homosexuality. The week also saw an American football player come out as gay, the first time an active NFL player has done so, and the Olympics is set to see its first ever transgender competitor after New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard, who is a trans woman, was selected for the Tokyo Games. Well, joining me now to talk about all of these issues is Sara Townsend, the co-president of the European Gay and Lesbian Sport Federation. Sara, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start by talking about that weightlifter, Laurel Hubbard, and her selection for the Olympic Games. What's your reaction to her selection and to some of the pushback that there's been about it?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. It's fantastic. I mean, clearly to actually arrive at having a trans athlete competing in the Olympics is a huge step forward for us. We've been campaigning at the EGLSF for over 30 years now, so that all athletes in the LGBTQI profile have their place in sport. It's not been easy. The recent challenge that we've seen with trans and intersex athletes, the case of Castor Semenya, the case of Duchi Chand, we're still in that struggle to be able to get a place for everybody. So clearly, the fact that that Laurel is now being accepted or qualified for the Olympics is a huge step forward for us.
So
I think in the feedback, excuse me.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, so it's a huge step forward, but it hasn't come without pushback. People who are opposed to trans women participating in women's sports argue that it's unfair, that they could have biological advantages. Do you think those are legitimate concerns?
I think this like many other questions of LGBTQI participation in sport is just a question of human rights. I think that the controversy is all about not allowing people their place in sport. So we've had other controversies. I think we're getting to a point where maybe we're moving forward on all of this. Clearly, this is a good step forward. The retractors of this, I think we've been through other problems, excuse me, and where we're going to now is that we just need to find a way for everyone to have their place in sport. The argument within sport that, the biological argument is, a lot of those questions or a lot of those issues are not founded. And I think what we need to do is actually rely on the fundamental issue of human rights. This is where the real argument is, I think.
The U.S. has also been passing many laws banning trans girls and women from participating in sports. What would you say to people who support those laws and are maybe misunderstanding this issue?
Well, as I say, I think it's an issue, it's fundamental human right. We have in the Olympic Charter, we have in, the sports charters of UEFA, of, many of our sporting institutions, that sport should be accessible to everybody. And I think what we need to do is find a way to make it accessible to everybody rather than finding ways to prevent people from participating. We can have a discussion, but I think, the controversy or the main argument where people are trying to prevent certain athletes from competing, I don't think that really should be a discussion, that we can find a way how to help all athletes compete should be the basis of our discussion.
I want to move on to the topic of homophobia in men's football, which also came up this week. What did you make of UEFA's decision not to allow Munich to light up their stadium in rainbow during that Germany-Hungary game?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think, unfortunately, UEFA has again also failed to address the fundamental issue, which is an issue of human rights. Lighting up the stadium was actually an opportunity for an act of solidarity with the LGBTQI community, sporting community, which unfortunately UEFA, it's a serious misstep for them And I think further, to draw an equivalence between this positive act of solidarity and the regressive legislation that has been happening in Hungary, it shows that they really have missed the issue. They have a flagship policy, which is their Equal Game campaign, where they purportedly support the LGBTQI community in sport. Unfortunately, this latest action has sort of shown us that it's very superficial. They're not actually sort of backing up their words with actions, and I think it's very, very unfortunate, very disappointing for our community. But they definitely need to be called out on something like this, because the rainbow colours are not just colours. There are people behind it. We've been campaigning, we've been struggling to get equal rights for LGBTQI people in sport for over 30 years now at the European Gay and Lesbian Federation. We work along with many of our colleagues in Football versus Homophobia campaign. Many other organizations in Europe are and have been working for sort of equal representation in sport for a very long time. So to have this decision from UEFA in this particular sort of geopolitical context at the moment is very, very unfortunate.
Part of what makes these issues so complicated is that the world of professional sports does bring together people from countries with sometimes really drastically different cultural norms. Whose responsibility is it, and how do we create sort of a universal standard when it comes to human rights?
Well, I think the universal standard of human rights is there. In Europe we have that written in laws that everybody has the same right to exist. Everybody has the same right to accessibility of our laws. In sport, everybody should have the same right to be able to access sport. That as a part of Europe, that's what you sign up to. So, the recent laws, what's been happening in Hungary, for example, it's blatantly against European law. This isn't a question, about nationalism. It's a question about sort of abiding to the laws of Europe and basic fundamental human rights. It's, this issue of the stadium, the issue of it, it's not a question. It's not a political question. It goes much deeper than that.
And do you think UEFA and other organizations like FIFA are doing enough then when it comes to creating an inclusive environment? UEFA did try to say that they support these values, but then they also made this decision. What should those organizations be doing?
Well, I think they have in their charters that they will support these values. That sport is a right for everybody. As I said, the UEFA has a flagship campaign called Equal Game, where they purportedly support this sort of access to sport for everybody. So what they're actually doing, they have the first step there. What they're actually doing and what they have done with this, this latest action is actually just not live up to their own charter. It's not. They can't just write the words and fly the colours. It's Pride Month in June. It's all of that is very good, but if you're going to fly the rainbow colours, if you're going to write things like that into your own charter of your organisation, then you have to live up to them. And living up to them is putting actions to the words. So this would have been a fantastic opportunity for UEFA to do exactly that.
Yeah, certainly a missed opportunity to put your actions to your values. Sara Townsend, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Sara Townsend, co-president of the European Gay and Lesbian Sport Federation.
Thank you.